Well, good morning and welcome. Glad you could join us. What a week it has been in local politics on a number of fronts, including the Democratic Senate primary debate between Ed Markey and Joe Kennedy that you saw live here on WBZ last Tuesday night. By the way, you can watch, if you missed it, you can watch that on demand at your leisure by logging on to cbsboston.com. Well, here to talk about that, the Senate race and more is our old pal James Pindell, ace political reporter and analyst from the Boston Globe. James, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, did you see or hear anything in that debate that suggests a change in what's, by all accounts, been a pretty close race so far?
Not so much, other than the fact that both candidates, and this is kind of inside baseball, but compared to the previous debates, it's instructive, came in with an agenda. For Kennedy, it was to talk about the Henry family and to talk about what the role of a senator is. For Markey, it was to talk about the super PAC ads. And they both executed on that. I mean, for the most part, and as you pointed out in your debate, which you got a lot of praise for, is that you let them debate. And so I think for a lot of it, there's the opportunity there for a game-changing moment. I just don't think we really saw a game-changing moment, and that's probably the candidates' fault.
Well, they went at it pretty good, as everyone saw, and I think both men came away with something to brag about out of the debate. One thing I wondered about, and I wanted your take on it, toward the end of the debate, Senator Markey went after Congressman Kennedy's family, alleging that both his twin brother Matthew and his father, former Congressman Joe Kennedy II, have been actively funding super PACs that have been attacking Markey. And he, people I'm sure noted, although ask your father about it, ask your father, tell your father, et cetera, et cetera. The Kennedy family have been iconic in this state for many, many years. Did Markey take a risk there?
No, I thought it was a brilliant play. I mean, if you have some people who, even occasional voters who don't like the amount of money in politics and how politics is funded. So that's one bucket. But what he was really going after, of course, is the privilege. And you see it time and time again in the few polls we have in this race, is that the idea of privilege comes up a lot with the Kennedy family. Why are you even running? You're running because you're a Kennedy and you think you can win. And so to be able to bring that back, the Kennedy family is not as beloved as they obviously once were, but we're in a moment of cultural and economic reckoning, amongst other things, in the middle of a pandemic. And I think people are open-minded to what this exactly means and who has really benefited from privilege. And so in that sense, I do think it was a brilliant flip to turn it around. Then I have to give Kennedy credit to turn around with errant tweets to bring up Lee Harvey Oswald. It was really, and then we went from, without getting the details, which obviously you went from putting Kennedy on the defensive, will you ask your father, to making Markey apologize, which was a pretty quick thing in about 10 seconds.
Well, one other thing before we take our break, James, obviously an unprecedented amount of mail-in voting appears to be underway. We've never seen a primary, certainly, that I don't think we've had mail-in voting in a primary before. If the majority of the vote or a substantial minority of the vote is mail-in, who does that potentially help most? Or does it help one over the other?
The conventional wisdom is that it helps Kennedy, largely because the most informed voters and Democrats tend to be more Markey supporters than they are Kennedy supporters. Voters who are low information, sort of kind of pay attention, really don't even know who Markey is. If it's higher voter turnout, that means those people are now involved in this vote. And the conventional wisdom is that that helps Kennedy. Markey people push back on that, but that is basically the conventional wisdom.
The higher the turnout, the better for Kennedy.
That's what Kennedy's obviously been making on for months. That's why they've been running targeted ads on how exactly you mail in that ballot.